Welcome back to the Year of Plenty podcast, the show to help you get closer to your food source and learn the skills to make every year a year of plenty. We're all about building more resilient people through food here, and I'm pumped to have you along for the ride. Now imagine this, a garden brimming with heirloom vegetables, all grown from seeds traded with fellow enthusiasts. Now picture turning those vegetables into hot sauces and other foods that are delicious and unique. Those are some of the things we're going to touch on in today's episode. We're chatting with Castiron Kyle, who's a real homemade hot sauce nerd and has been saving and trading heirloom vegetable seeds for over a decade. As his name, Castiron Kyle, implies, he's also a cast iron cookware expert. I think he must have one of the largest cast iron cookware collections in the US, and he actually goes out to thrift shops and flea markets and whatnot, finds these cast irons and then restores them. I've actually had Kyle on the podcast before to talk specifically about cast iron cookware, so definitely check that one out if that's something that interests you. But for today's episode, I wanted to have Kyle back on to talk about some of the other things he's knowledgeable about, like gardening, homemade hot sauce making, and seed saving and trading. So with that being said, get ready for some spicy ideas and valuable gardening tips from Kyle. All right, Cast Iron Kyle, welcome back to the Year of Plenty podcast, man. How are you doing?
Good, man. Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here. I like your podcast a lot.
Hey, I really appreciate that. It's been probably like 2 years almost since we chatted last, I would say,
Yeah,
roughly,
about
right?
2 years. Yeah, about that. I mean, it was right after we moved into the new house. So yeah, roughly 2 years here and there.
Yeah. No, I've done a lot of moving since then too.
Yeah,
Been, just living the kind of apartment life. We had a pretty cool spot last year on this 50-acre sheep ranch, and we had a pretty big garden space, and I was really
nice.
able to experiment. Now we have a small garden patio, so I kind of had to really downsize the garden, but I'm still going to try to grow as much as I can. Just,
Yeah,
you know, with a lot of foraging too, I always tend to do too much and I
yeah,
can't keep
right.
up with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Well,
definitely put too many eggs in my basket. I'm very guilty of that.
I feel like we're just like people who get excited about this kind of stuff, so you kind of want to
Of
do it
course.
all.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So, I want to talk about vegetable gardening with you today a bit, but before,
Sure.
you're the cast iron guy. So, the last episode we did was all about deep dive into cast iron. It was great. I got a ton of great feedback on that one. But
Thank you.
yeah, what's new in the cast iron world? Like, got any updates for us?
Well, yeah, I've been kind of doing like more like behind the scenes stuff, like things that I'm doing, like restoration videos, like bringing people into the world of picking. I've been doing a lot of picking videos, like a lot of, would you scoop this up at a flea market type thing? I shifted some of my content into travel, kind of like I like to go picking in the South through Tennessee, Virginia, and all that. And I have my first travel video series in Eastern Tennessee. I'll be there all next week shooting right at the foothills of the Smoky Mountains. So I'm really excited about that. Yeah, I did some articles, some fun media and stuff like that. It's just been a really fun ride. I've been getting a lot of good feedback from the projects I've been doing. And, I really enjoy helping people use something that their great grandmother had to cook something for their current family. It's just a great feeling.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, it's just, I mean, we kind of talked about this in the last episode, but it's just these like timeless cooking
Yeah.
utensils that are just gonna stick around forever. And the coolest thing is if you can find an old one, like at a flea market and restore it. That's,
Yeah. Oh,
it seems like a lot, but once you go through the steps, and I know you have
yeah.
content around it, it's
Yeah.
pretty simple and straightforward and doable. Actually,
Yeah.
my
When you
my
find,
girlfriend, yeah, my girlfriend found she drove past the house and they had a bunch of cast iron out, and I haven't restored it yet, but she got it for like $15, and one of them is a Griswold
oh,
in there. Yeah,
oh, Griswold for $15. Oh, damn.
yeah,
Wow.
right.
That's close to my
Yeah,
personal best, dude. My personal best is $10, man. That's pretty close.
wow. Yeah, they were just trying to get rid of it, and she just grabbed it.
Good, man. It's like a rug. It's like drugs, dude. It's like a high. If you go to a flea market in the yard sale and you scoop up a Griswold for, 20, $30 and you work on it, restore it and everything, dude, it just hits a whole different high. It's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, me too. So, are there any, new quality brands out there? I know last time we
Oh
talked
yeah.
about, some of the newer brands you were kind of working with too that really do a good job of bringing out new products.
Yeah. So in my day job, I work in a welding shop. I'm a machinist for a welding company. And that background of doing that for almost 20 years gave me a really good starting point to be able to determine if a new brand is good. I think right now on the market, the best new brand of cast iron would be Smithy because of their craftsmanship. They have a nice heaviness to them. They have a good quality cast, and they actually machine the surfaces of their cast iron with like low speed, proper feed. Like those are all machinist terms. Like the speed in which the piece turns and the feed rate in which it machines. Like like a record player almost. If you think about how fast a record player goes versus how fast the
Right.
needle goes across, they do a good job. They obviously have really knowledgeable machinists. I have a few of their products. I just did a nice big unboxing for them, and I think that they're the best on the market right now. It's funny because I had somebody message me and say, "Oh, you're just taking the first brand that threw money at you." I said, "No, that's not the case. I've done, I guess, 7 or 8 different brands of new cast iron, like testing on them, and I determined the brands that I wanted to work with, and Smithy was top of that list. So I'm super happy to be on board with them."
That's awesome. And when you say I think you called it a smooth surface. Well, like
Yes.
when they're machining it, what's the benefit of that?
So when you're grinding it, the average grinder rotates between 11,000 and 17,000 RPMs. And if you take a stone that's going that fast against metal, you're heating it up in a super concentrated area when you're grinding. And that changes the complete composition of metal. It's called work hardening. It makes cast iron brittle and it makes it not able to absorb a, um, a seasoning as if it were machine. Like, so basically, if you're looking at a microscope and the surface of the cast iron looks like a brittle sponge, right? If you were to
Right.
grind that, if you were to grind it, you're just like making it all flat and like it's hard to explain, but you're kind of just bending it all over. Like if you were to step on tall grass and push that grass over, you're just locking in the ability of any type of seasoning to get in there. You're not going to do that. So the tanks that we make at my job, when a tank needs to be protected from corrosion, we grind it, sand it, polish it so that no metal can or no liquid, acid, oils, nothing can penetrate that metal. But when you machine something, you're turning it nice and slow, usually like, I mean, 500 RPMs maybe, which is not very fast in the machining world. And all you're doing is running a bit over the top to take down the high spots. You're not changing the chemical composition or the physical properties of the metal. And it's a really good way to make any type of metal look good, but it's a great way to make sure that cast iron can still perform the way that it is designed to perform without changing it in any way. You see a lot of people, I get a DM at least once or twice a week of somebody that's saying, "Hey, look, I polished the surface of my cast iron. Now it's nice and smooth." It's like, well, if you look at it under a microscope, you're going to be very surprised because you're not going to be able to get any oil on it. It's just going to stain the surface of the cast iron. And it's controversial. People give me a lot of guff for saying that, but they're usually not people that have worked in the metal world for 20 years. So I usually don't take it to heart too heavily.
Yeah. So you almost want them to be a bit more porous and like
For
allow
sure.
that seasoning to get in there and
Yep.
really create that nonstick surface through the seasoning.
Absolutely.
And that's
Yes,
what the
sir.
smithies allow for better than some
Yes.
others.
Yep. There's
That's
other brands
awesome.
that are machining. There's other brands that are machining, but you can tell they're not using the proper bit. They're not using the proper speed, feeds. You can just tell, like when metal gets discolored after machining, it means they're going too fast, going too hard, taking too much off. And that, like I said, that background in machining has helped me really determine who's doing it right.
Right. That's awesome that you can apply that to your side hustle there and all the
Yeah,
cast
right.
iron stuff. So, as a cast iron expert, obviously you come across a lot of questions, like you just said, and opinions. So I'm
Oh yeah.
curious, like, have any of your own opinions changed since we last spoke? Like, have you changed your mind on anything that's pretty maybe
Mm,
controversial in the cast iron world?
I think last time we spoke, I talked about not really cooking a lot of acidic food in cast iron, which is still the
Yeah.
case. But you can do it like I have a designated skillet for acidic or Italian, any wine based or lemon based dish. I had initially had the stance that you don't cook anything acidic or and yeah, they think basically anything is acidic in cast iron. I've kind of changed my stance on that by actually having a pan designed for that because it does strip some of the acids do strip some of the oils. But if you have a pan that's designated for that, you could kind of season it a little bit more and kind of do like make it a little bit get out in front of it if you're going to do something acidic. I have not changed my stance on soap. I never will change my stance on soap. I guarantee you can 100% appreciate the reason that I do not use soap, which I know we didn't go into depth last time because I've done some studies since then. It takes on average 5 to 7 gallons of water to rinse soap off of a cast iron skillet.
Wow.
So if you use that, and that's getting all the soap off of the skillet, you don't want to leave any soap on it. So if you use your skillet, say, every other day, say it's 180 days, right? And you're talking thousands and thousands of gallons of water that are so unnecessary. And all you really need to sanitize a skillet is heat. Like if you're out camping, right? You do a lot of camping and foraging. If you're in an emergency situation and you need to purify water, what are you doing? You're boiling it, correct?
Right.
So anything over 212 degrees, there is no bacteria. It is scientifically proven there is no bacteria, there is no disease, there is no bacteria, nothing can live after 212 degrees. So what I do, I just give it a little steel wool, rinse it off, just a little quick splash under the sink, put it back on the stove for like a minute on like low or medium heat, and it brings it to, way more than 200 degrees. And it's been good enough for all of my skillets and all of my customers' skillets, and it's the way that I'm going to do it forever.
Yeah, that's what I exactly same process I do, and
Mhm.
it works great. And it seems so. You're basically most people that are using soap, they're going to be consuming some of that soap.
Of course, yeah.
Likely,
There's a lot.
it's
There are some accounts that are like they figured out that, hey, if I push soap on my Instagram page, I can then sell a compound to sell to people. So they created a problem and a solution. So they're saying soap's fine, use as much soap as you want. Oh, and your skillet's dry after you use soap. Here's my compound that I'm going to sell you. You know what I mean? It's like
yeah,
snake oil. You know what I mean? You need
right.
lard, and if you're vegan, you use avocado oil. That's it. That's all you need.
Yep,
So
those are the best oils anyway. That or tallow, some animal fat, yeah,
yes.
avocado, coconut. I like coconut.
Oh,
Yeah,
coconut oil is great too. Yeah, absolutely.
that's cool. So you said some pans are designed to handle more acidic food. Some cast iron skillets, for example,
Yeah.
are more designed
hmm
to handle the acidic foods.
hmm
What makes a pan better to
Well,
handle that? Or-
an enameled pan would be 100% what you should use for acidic foods. If you don't have that, you can use a skillet that is, ready for it, meaning you can oil it, you can give it a nice fresh coating of seasoning, and you could, really get it prepared like showroom ready if you're going to put a lot of acidic foods in there. Just kind of getting out in front of it. But if you want like no headache with cooking acidic foods and you still want the heating properties of cast iron, I would go with enamel. You could use Staub, you could use Le Creuset, you could use even Lodge has an enameled line. And if you want to get started in cast iron and you've never used it before, I would suggest going to the thrift store or like Walmart, pick it up like a Martha Stewart cast iron Dutch oven or something like that. And then over time, you will appreciate the higher dollar brands, their longevity and their, higher quality and things like that. But, that pretty much sums it up.
Totally. I'd assume maybe even like have a cast iron around that doesn't have a bunch of seasoning on it because I'm thinking here maybe like making tomato sauce. You don't really necessarily need that nonstick property.
Nah.
like if you're making eggs, so maybe that's another option,
Yeah,
have
right.
an
Yeah.
enameled one.
I have a 5.5 quart enamel Dutch oven that I use when I make tomato sauce. It's just so much less of a headache. You know what I mean? It just, wipe out and go.
Right. Yeah. Cool. Well, I want to talk a lot more than cast iron with you today because I know you're a
Yeah,
really passionate vegetable gardener and
big time.
like to focus on specific veggies too. And last time we didn't really get into it as much as we wanted to.
Yeah.
So first of all, what inspired you to start vegetable gardening? I always like to hear people's stories.
Well, when I was little, my grandfather, who was from Tennessee, where I'll be next week, I'm in New Jersey, Zone 7A, and he had a garden when I was a kid. And whenever my mom couldn't get me to eat my vegetables, she would just lie and tell me that my grandfather grew them in his garden, and it guilted me into eating said vegetables. But as I got older, I understood the gravity of saying, Poppy grew those in his garden. I understand what she was doing. And I have some involvement in the hot sauce world and hot sauce shows. That's a whole different episode. But
Well,
it
I want
got
to
me
get into
thinking.
some of it later.
We can for sure. Absolutely. There's a lot there. But I really liked the diversity and different varieties and heirloom varieties of certain peppers. And I got into trading seeds all over the country, and then it turned into all over the world. And growing these peppers has been so fun because you don't know how exactly they're going to look and like what variety these are, what color changes they're going to have. And this year I got into, I do the same, weird wild hot peppers, but I got into some heirloom tomatoes from like the center of the country. Like a lot of people in Ohio, Indiana, they have these family seeds that have been rotating since the 1800s, some of them. And
Wow.
Nebraska is another one. I got some from Wyoming. I got some definitely from Indiana. Um, there's a uh, there's a purple variety of tomato that the Cherokees stabilized. The Cherokee Indians are called Cherokee. I think they're called Cherokee Purple, if I'm not mistaken. But got some of them going. There's a variety of yellow tomato that was brought here by the Dutch in the 1800s. So I'm really looking into getting into tomatoes because I appreciate a good tomato sandwich. So I want to switch it up a little bit.
Yeah, man. That or just salsa. I
Oh
love
yeah,
making just most of my meals are like burrito bowls, and
oh
fresh
yeah, hell
tomato
yeah,
in there. Oh,
yeah.
fresh tomato in
Nothing
it,
better.
so good. Yeah.
Nothing better.
So, I mean, it sounds like peppers are one of your big passions in the growing in the
Yes.
garden. So, like,
Yeah.
do you have some top tips in terms of growing healthy pepper plants for people?
Yeah, I have some ferments going here I wanted to show you, but to grow healthy peppers, you really need just one thing I've learned is don't overwater. Your plants will tell you when they need to be watered, and they will certainly tell you if they've been overwatered. Like for instance, basil. Basil doesn't need a ton of water. In my findings, I've found that I could water my basil half as much as I water my peppers, and it's fine. If I run the sprinkler over the garden on the basil as much as the basil is going to start getting wilted and that saturated, tight look. So really learning the one thing I could give advice to people would be to find out what amount of water your plants really need. And when it says half sun, you have to listen to that because if you put a half sun vegetable in a full sun garden, you're not going to get a good growth rate. It'll grow still, but it will not grow as if it would in optimal conditions. Um,
Right.
I also would I would say don't buy your seeds on eBay or like from like people you don't know. You have to get your seeds from a reputable person. I learned that mistake years ago, like 10 years ago. Not every pepper marked ghost pepper is an actual ghost pepper or reaper or scorpion, etc. You should get them from a reputable small business, a farmer, somebody that you can talk to, get pictures of the last year's harvest, and just kind of learn and dial it in a little bit before you just go haphazardly buying seeds all over the place.
Right. Yeah, and I want to get into more of the seed saving and trading a little later on here in the
Oh yeah.
podcast. But it's interesting. Last year, I tried growing some peppers. They weren't spicy ones. They were called sweet. Oh God, sweet chocolate. They were red bell peppers. It was an heirloom
Okay,
variety,
yeah,
and they were kind of like a brown. But
yeah.
I started them inside under light, and I think and it ended up being pretty stunted. They didn't really take off.
Mm.
I'm not quite sure what I did wrong yet. I'm pretty new to growing peppers and whatnot. I
Mm.
think one thing I was kind of reading about is that maybe I had the light too close for too long of
That's
a
what I was
time.
going to say. The light, one of the things I learned when I was starting inside, because where I'm at, you have to start seeds in like late December, January, sometimes. You don't need light on the dirt. And once the seedlings come up, or once they like just sprout like a half inch or an inch, you can have those lights like a foot and a half to 2 feet above the plant. If you put them here, all you're doing is cooking, because those lights
Yeah,
give off heat. So I
right.
learned that lesson too. That could probably be the case.
Okay, yeah. This year I'm going to mostly focus on squash and some
Sweet,
radishes, and I love winter squash and summer squash. And like I said, we
of
only have
course.
limited space, so I'm going to see what
Mm.
I can make happen. I haven't even started yet. I mean, we had snow showers like 2 weeks ago, and it's been pretty cold here in
Oh my
Montana.
God. 2 weeks
Yeah,
ago?
yeah, man. We've been yeah, we just got rid of. I don't even know. I haven't looked into the mountains for a bit. It's kind of sometimes start to take them for granted when you're driving to work,
Yeah.
sadly. But there might even still be some snow in there on there right now.
Yeah,
So
that's nuts.
uh,
I couldn't imagine getting into harvest that late. We had a late start to the season. About 2 or 3 weeks ago, it was like 45 degrees, and that's still in the touchy area. What you could do, start them in some big pots, Poldy, and then when it gets cold, just bring them in the house.
right. Well, I'm doing grow bags, so that's all I can
Oh,
really do here.
perfect.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna start them right in the grow bags and go from there.
the company that I used for grow bags they were really good. They were super durable. Ones I bought from someone else, the handles broke off when I tried to lift them up. The handles just broke off. There's a company called Bootstrap Farmer. They sell some pretty good stuff,
I just
and
looked at their site. Yeah,
they're good, dude. Those seedling trays they have that you could put in the dishwasher and wash them for every year. Perfect. No single
yeah.
use plastic, right, dude? Right?
That's right. That's right. No, yeah, I'll have to check out their grow bags some more because I was thinking also maybe getting some hemp just because microplastic concerns and stuff like that.
Oh
Just
yeah,
hemp grow bags, but they I guess they deteriorate pretty quick. But I think that I might just have to go that
yeah,
route either way.
yeah.
Because honestly, even my grow bags I bought, they kind of started to. I left the dirt in there over the winter, which wasn't a good idea, but they
Nah,
started to even deteriorate a bit. And I think some animals were trying to like groundhogs were trying to dig in
burrow
and
in there. Yeah.
yeah, under from the sides and stuff.
What's
Cool.
the
Well,
one nutrient I would recommend if you're trying to boost your soil from last year? Because it's kind of hard to take all the soil out of all your pots and put new soil in. You can use
yeah,
eggshells, coffee grinds. You can go to the grocery store and ask your fish guy to give you some fish trimmings and put it halfway down in the soil. And there's it's not a chemical, but it's a as close to organic as you can get without it being like commercially organic, I guess. It's called Neptune's
right.
Harvest. It uses nutrients from like fish and different, shellfish and stuff like that. Neptune's
Shellfish,
Harvest has
yep.
been really good for me. That they've everything I've used from them was really good.
I bought that one last year and used it at like the
It's good,
liquid
isn't
one
it?
and that yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
Smells
read a ton of
horrible.
great reviews. Yeah.
Terrible
Yep.
stuff. Don't open it in your
I did
house.
I did a podcast with my buddy Antonin and he actually does his own like fish
Oh.
carcass ferments that he then in like a big cooler and he uses that as fertilizer and whatnot. Yeah. It's an
Ah.
interesting method. I was maybe trying to do with some of the fish I caught, coming up now here
Yeah, yeah.
once I get more into the fly fishing season. Yeah.
Cool, man.
There's a lot you can do.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, on the hot sauce front, I'm really curious there. I know, I like hot sauces. I'm not like a fanatic about them, but I know people obsess about them, and you can get into
Yeah.
like all this cool experimental stuff. And I know you
Just
do some of it.
spiral down.
Yeah, the rabbit holes, right? That's what we love.
Yeah,
We
right.
love those.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when did you first start making the hot sauces from your homegrown peppers? And was there like a mentor that you had,
Yeah,
or was it just
yeah.
self-taught?
I I used to just do the classic, like take your peppers, grind them in the blender with all different concoctions, kind of like when you're a kid and you're like making mud pies and potions and stuff outside. And then
Yeah.
I actually was taught a little bit by Brad Leone on how to do the ferments and stuff like that. And he was over here about a year or so ago, last April. And I have, give me 1 second, I'll show you these.
Yeah.
And
Awesome. I always love.
so these are some ferments. This is a 3-year ferment going steady. No, as you can see, no mold, just lactobacillus action. And it's still burping. If I pop this, you might be able to hear. Let me see if I can get it. There you go. Heard that?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. That's sweet. So
It's
for
still
people
going.
listening, real quick, I just for people listening, Kyle's holding up two, it looks like maybe like 3 gallon jars, 2 to 3 gallon jars.
Yeah, about a gallon and a half to 2 gallon. This one's about a half to 3/4 of a gallon. And I have these going on 2 years and 3 years. And I'm trying to see how, because they say after about 6 months to a year there's kind of like a plateau, and then after the 1 year mark it can kind of get like super funky and fun and not dangerous, just good, good fermentation. And when Brad was here, I showed him, I was like, I got to have you look at something before you go. And I showed him, and he couldn't believe that the one was from 3 years. He's like, that's 3 years? I said, yeah, I did that on my nephew's first birthday at our old house. And we were moving here. It was one of like the precious things that I had to move to the house. And he said it was good.
That's
I
awesome.
followed his brine and it was nuts. I'm happy about it.
So yeah, I mean that's super fascinating because most of my ferments are like 10 days, if I do like a lacto
Oh, yeah.
ferment. So
Yeah.
what do you do to keep it safe for that long? Is it just a formula, following a formula from the start?
Yeah. And I don't mind sharing it either. It's not a big secret either. I could share it. I just have to
All
pull
right,
it up.
love to hear it.
Yeah. 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 Ferment. Okay. Here's my official ferment. Okay. 6 tablespoons of sugar and 6 tablespoons of salt per 2 quarts. Now, you got to make sure, don't make the water too hot, don't make it too cold, make it room temperature, and make sure the salt and the sugar are completely mixed in and dissolved and melted, whatever. And then if you watch one of Brad's videos where he does the ferments, he adds things like pink peppercorn and cardamom pods and hibiscus and all this stuff. I like to throw Szechuan peppers in there. I do the pink peppercorns. I find that they last, they stay together longer. They don't like fall apart like black pepper does. Um, and I do put I do cardamom pods. I'll do like a little bit of star anise in there, a little clove. You can get funky with the stuff you put in there, but make sure it's something that's not going to mold easy. Like it's got to be something that's a dried spice or something like that that will absorb that brine rather than bring new um, moisture into the ferment, if that makes sense. So you like basically the only moisture you want in there is from the water with the sugar and the salt and whatever the peppers have, because it's going to displace that. So you don't want to bring any other funky liquids from other stuff in there. I just don't prefer that. So you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, great. So do you boil the water first and then let it cool down just to kill off everything that's in the water?
I'll buy a gallon of spring water, or I'll get it. We have a filtration system here, which is perfectly fine. It's like 99.9 or whatever the hell they say it is. I've had no problems with doing it that way, but if you do not have a filtration system or like even like a Brita or something like that, you should boil it. Yeah, because those little things that are in the water, those little microorganisms that are safe for you to drink the first time around, may not be good for you 6 months down the road. So yeah, yeah, you know what? We're gonna go with boil it for this podcast. Yes.
Yeah, then just let it kind of cool down until it's got room temperature, add your salt, sugar, and mix it in well.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep.
And I see your jars, they're not filled all the way to the top. And often when I try to do a ferment, I try to go to the very neck of the, I mean, not, I still like to leave like an inch headspace because of the fermentation and
Right.
the, you don't want, too much get going, the right, what is it even called?
Right.
The carbonation that happens and it could
Yeah.
blow up your good jar
Yeah,
potentially, and liquid could
I've had
spill.
that happen. I've had that
Yeah.
happen. It's sad, man. When you see all the peppers you grew by hand in your garden just scattered all over the room amongst glass,
Oh,
there's like no way to salvage it. You know what I mean? You got
oh,
to throw them out.
yeah.
But yeah, I think with this one, this is the 3 year one. There's nothing in there to hold it down and like push the peppers down. And I think what really is the difference between needing to do that and not needing to do it, I boil the jars. I wash the hell out of the jars. I make sure they are super, super sanitary. I don't want bacteria or anything to even have a chance. And that both of these jars don't have weights and they have a good, I would say a good 2 to 3 inches on top, and they've been fine, which is surprising. But if you try to wash it out and do as much as you can to prevent that stuff, you'll have a good outcome.
So if you keep it fermenting that long, do you ever find yourself having to add water or anything like
Nope.
that?
No.
No.
This
Yeah.
one's gone down about an inch, I would say, in 3 years or so. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know how long I'm going to have them go. I think after, with it being 3 years, I don't know. What do I do? Like a 5 year ferment? No one's ever done that. Like, I don't know anyone that has fermented a pepper beyond 2 years. And this one's at three. So I
That's
just wish I
awesome.
had 50 jars so that I could, bottle them up, and I wouldn't legally be able to sell them because they're fermented. So it would just have to be like a friend and family kind of thing, like a barter method. Keep it legal, right?
Right. Yeah. Wink, wink. Just kidding. No.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you do you, uh, do you ever find mold in there? And if you do, how do you just remove it, or what? What do
If
you do?
mold is in there, if it's bad mold, you got to discard it. You can't risk that. You
Okay.
can get very, very sick from that. And there's people that have mold allergies that can't even like be at a winery. Like they can't even smell mold in, the fermenting of wine. It could kill them. So it's not good for you to consume if you get any mold. Um, so yeah, if you get mold, you got to toss it out. Mold's a good learning tool because mold will definitely teach you what to not do next time. So it's not a good thing if you get mold on there. Don't eat it.
All right. Yeah, that's definitely something to watch out for. And you mentioned, you couldn't sell the fermented ones. What's even the point of fermenting? Why do you like to ferment?
Well, it's good for you. Like if you're gonna eat a Carolina Reaper pepper, it's best to eat it under the best conditions. And when you're fermenting, you're introducing and creating lactobacillic acid, which is or lactobacillus bacteria, which is almost like what's in like your yogurts, your Greek yogurts, or any of your probiotics. You're making probiotic, um, for lack of a better term. You're creating probiotics, and that's good for your digestive system. So these peppers in their raw form are not good for your digestive system, and it kind of gives them a little bit of a funky flavor that you cannot emulate. It's almost like buying good wine. Like when you go to a vineyard and you go to a winery and you're drinking really good, high quality wine, nothing can displace that flavor. It's by doing it right. It's by doing it, properly. And you're creating this flavor that just can't be emulated. And I think fermenting longer creates a more funky flavor, like an umami-ish flavor. And it's just something when you give to somebody, it's something you can guarantee they've never tasted before.
Yeah, I can see how that can really create a unique hot sauce every time,
Oh
just
yeah,
based
yes
on
sir.
how you ferment it. And I bet the experimentation there gets really fun. And also, I'd assume there's like a preservation benefit, because
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Oh for sure.
fermentation is what people use forever to preserve their vegetables. So
Absolutely. There is a preservation to it now. I mean, everybody's got a refrigerator and all that, but it is a way that people did preserve things back in the day. Yeah, you had two methods. You either did it through fermenting, or like a pickling and canning type of situation, which I want to get more
right,
into canning my own vegetables and stuff as time goes on. Every year, my garden's gotten a little bit bigger and bigger and bigger. So eventually, see how much I can fit in my backyard. But I'd like to grow my own vegetables and really get into canning and preserving in all different ways.
yeah, no, I think it's just something we all should be doing.
Of course.
especially with all the supply chain stuff we saw a few years ago. And
Oh my
I don't
God.
think the food system is as stable as we think it is in the
No,
long term here, and there might be some more stuff coming down the road. So
you never know,
without
man.
trying to fear monger or whatever, I just think it's a great skill to learn. And I mean, there's a reason I think that all our grandmas did it.
Yep,
And it's yeah
of course.
forever.
Yeah, I think I'm a big fan of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like we don't have to change very, very little of what our grandparents did to have, fruitful lives. You don't have to, if you buy a tomato, literally, if you think about it, you can go to the grocery store and buy one tomato. And if you do it correctly, that's the only tomato you ever have to buy for the rest of your life. Think about that. A
Yeah,
tomato, I don't know how many seeds are in a tomato, maybe 1,500 seeds are in the average tomato. All you need is five of them, maybe six of them if you have a family, and you grow them, and then you save a tomato from that growth and rinse and repeat. And you literally don't ever have to buy it again if you do it correctly. And
that's
that's what
powerful.
our ancestors did. It's super powerful to think that way.
And I mean, it doesn't get much more sustainable than that, right?
Nothing.
Like,
Nothing does. The only
yeah,
the only vegetables that you do have to buy if you want them, unless I mean, obviously you can go buy seeds from whoever, but a lot of your root vegetables and stuff like that don't really have seeds that you can really do much with. Like it's hard to get. Like I don't know how to get a radish seed. Like I wouldn't know how to do that. But most of your, like you're saying, you're growing your squash and zucchinis and your pumpkins, any type of gourd or any type of capsaicin pepper, anything like that that has its seeds. You can take those seeds and create generation upon generation, and that intrigues me to do that. And I have done that every year with peppers.
that's awesome. I want to get into your methods there later a little bit.
Sure.
So you mentioned fermenting more for the friends and family. What's the other way of making hot sauce and using peppers?
So the other way that you can do it is you have to use a commercial kitchen that is, USDA certified, and the EPA has to be involved. I know you. Which state are you in again? Is it Montana?
Montana, yep.
Yeah, it's probably a hell of a lot easier for you to do it there than it is in New Jersey. New Jersey is like 15 hoops to jump through before you even get to find out what hoops you have to jump through. But I think it's a unified thing in the United States that it has to be a serve safe environment. It has to be made in a kitchen that, the government says is safe enough to do it. And a lot of these hot sauce brands, they'll have a kitchen that gives them permission to use their kitchen for like one day out of the month or whatever. And that's really how any hot sauce business does it, because other than that, you have to like get your home kitchen, certified and make sure you have all stainless apply. It's a huge hassle to do that in your own house, like a commercial kitchen in your home. It's not feasible. So
Yeah.
there are people that you can send your recipe to. I have a small hot sauce brand that I have bottled for me. It's like my ideas and my recipes. They send me a sample and I'll taste it and send it back and all that.
What's it called? What's your
It's
hot
called
sauce
uh,
called?
it's called word of mouth hot sauce. It has no website. It has no anything. You just get it
That's awesome.
through my Instagram. You just have to message me and ask me for it, and I'll give you a shipping quote. It's kind of an experiment to see how well the posts on Instagram and the word of mouth of pretty much anything on social media does these days. It's fun. It's been really fun.
That's cool. So what's the basic process then of making hot sauce? Because like I assume the fermentation is just one step in the whole process.
Well, fermentation is a route you can take, but the other route they really want you to take is like pasteurizing, like using certain heats and certain preservatives and things like that, which is okay. Like a lot of people get really scared when you hear preservatives and nitrates and nitrites and stuff. All that's really doing is ensuring that you're not going to get sick. Um, and ideally, if it were up to me, obviously everything would be a fermented hot sauce. If you get sick, you'll be stronger next time after you get sick this time. But the process would be bringing it to a certain temperature, adding in ingredients that you're allowed to. There's certain things that you can't include and add, and it's so much tape and hoops and stuff. But basically, they want to ensure that you're doing it in a way where you're not going to create the next, virus, or you're not going to, do it half-ass and get somebody really sick.
Right, right. So for you, like if you're doing it at home with your fermented, you just take the
Yeah.
brine. Do you blend up the peppers, I assume, maybe to get
Hmm.
a bit more, yeah,
Oh
more of
yeah.
that flavor?
I'll take the brine and I'll take a colander and put it in a bigger pot, pour the peppers out, and you'll be stuck with the peppers, and then you'll have the brine. I'll put the peppers in a blender and mash them up and add a little bit of the brine if I want a different consistency. And I don't really add anything after that. I kind of just leave it to be what it is after the ferment.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, yeah, it's fun.
Simple like that. Yeah. Are there anything you add maybe in terms of like natural ingredients for preservation? I assume like maybe more garlic and stuff like that would work.
Oh yeah. Oh, there's garlic in there too. I forgot to even mention that. Yeah, yeah. Garlic is in pretty much everything. If I'm cooking it and it's not a dessert, I guarantee you there's garlic in it. So yeah, you could
Yeah, I
put
love
garlic in
garlic.
there. Yeah, and like that's what the salt in the brine does. The salt and the sugar is more like a flavor thing to balance out how much salt. Because if it was 6 tablespoons of salt in a quart of water, they would taste like terrible. So the sugar is kind of balancing that out. But the salt is really the hero in the preservation.
Right. And for the people who are low carb listening, a lot of the salt also gets consumed by the bacteria during
Oh, for
the
sure.
ferment,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
or a
Yep.
lot of sugar. Yeah. I hope I
Yeah.
said sugar, not salt. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are some like of your go-to peppers for making hot sauce? Is there anything especially grown right now, or even something
So,
historically that you like to use?
so a lot of the peppers over the past like decade have been different color varieties, which is cool. So you have like your basic habanero pepper, which has always been like a reddish orange color. Now they have chocolate habanero, which is a brown. They have a or a white colored like a pure white habanero. They have a bubblegum color. They have all these different colors. And that's cool because hot sauce used to just be in a red bottle all the time, always red, 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 everything. Now you can have these grays and these lighter colors and these like really these pinks and deep, rich, dark brown colors. There's a lot of different pepper varieties that are the same flavor profiles that you're familiar with, but just different colors. So like your ghosts, your reapers, your scorpions, your habaneros, there's all different colors of that variety. And I think it's cool because it's almost like paint. It's like you could try all you want, but unless you have a computer like at a body shop mixing your paint samples, you're never going to have the same product twice if you're doing it by hand.
Yeah, that's
So it's
awesome.
fun. You just pick a pepper you like and, create, it's like art to me, really.
Right. Yeah, no, that is cool to think about like that. Is there any specific hot pepper that you've grown right now that you're really excited about?
Yeah, there is a pepper from Africa. I don't know how to say it in its native language, the country that it's from, but it translates to coyote teeth, and it's like a
Oh,
little
wow.
white pepper that looks like a fang, and they're really hot, and they're very underrated pepper. You hear a lot of people talk about Scoville units and the world record and all this stuff. There's peppers that are grown, and I guarantee there's peppers that are grown in Africa or South America that can wipe any of the record holding peppers right off the table. And that's why I try to trade with people, because there's different soil all over the world. There's different grow conditions all over the world, and that can create such a unique product. But I'm excited. I always grow ghosts. I grow a bunch of different varieties of ghosts. I have purple ghosts. I have cream ghost, which is light green, like a creamy color ghost. I have my scorpions. I have what else do I have? I have so many different varieties of peppers. I have they're called yellow bubblegum peppers. They literally look like a piece of chewed up bubblegum when it grows, and they're all different colors and different. It's so cool. There's so many different ones, but I'm looking forward to the coyote teeth because I tried to grow them last year and I didn't have a good yield on them. So I tried something a little different this year with the whole entire garden, which we can talk about if you want to. But other than that, yeah, I'm looking for the coyote teeth, and I'm growing these really long peppers. They grow to like a foot long, but they're like a half inch thick, and I'm not sure of their heat profile. It's all over the place, kind of like shishitos. Like one in every 10 can like burn you up, which is kind of cool, you know. So we'll see what happens.
So it's always a bit of a gamble when you're out there trying your pepper for the first time.
Oh my god, yeah,
That's
big
awesome.
gamble. And I mean, contrary to popular belief, I'm not a when it comes to hot sauce and like hot sauce festivals and all that stuff, I'm not a, Carolina Reaper, like completely burn your face heat level person. I'm kind of looking for more of the cooking end because I like to do all the cooking content. I'm looking for hot sauces that pair really well with certain dishes. And I like a nice mid level heat. Like the most I'll cook with would be a ghost based sauce. I'm not cooking anything with a Reaper or a Scorpion in any of my skillets because God forbid any of that capsaicin oil gets sucked into that skillet. Anything I make is going to be spicy for a little while after. And I don't want to do that.
Right. Yeah. No, I same here. I don't like it super spicy either. I still
Nah.
want to enjoy the food at
Oh,
the end
for
of the
sure. But
day.
I share them, So I grow the hot ones, and when you ferment them, it does bring the heat way down, so you can enjoy the different flavors of the pepper.
I mean, it can be kind of like a psychedelic experience too, a bit, when you
It is.
get a really spicy one.
If you're not ready for it, I think I've always said that eating a hot pepper is half mental and half physical. You're gonna get that burn, and all that is doing is it's your body's reaction to thinking it's on fire. So it's like your body's panicking. So if you can kind of get yourself in a different mental state and prepare yourself for that, shock your body's going to feel, you can kind of start to enjoy the flavor profiles of these peppers, which are very diverse. Like people like bourbon drinkers and beer drinkers have all these different notes, the beginning, the middle, the end, the mouthfeel, where it burns. That is just way deeper than I'm in it right now. And I like where I'm at right now.
I bet. So you just mentioned a potential new garden strategy this year. Do
Yes.
you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so last year I used straight manure, cow and horse manure, um, and I did okay. The garden was a little bit spotty. There were a couple spots where things were flourishing. There was a couple spots where things weren't really flourishing. I also think that has to do with the grade of the land. But this year I am trying goat manure. There's a farmer I work with and he has tons of goats and he brings in these massive tomatoes. He brings in these really healthy, thick, rich jalapenos. And everybody asks him like, what the hell are you doing? Like, what secrets are you, bringing? And he's from Mexico and his family's farmers in Mexico. And he said, we always use the goat manure. We use the goat poop. And I said, all right, I'll give it a try. And I traded him some seedling trays from Bootstrap Farmer, and he brought me two 20-gallon totes full of goat crap. And it's like little marbles, and I'm just like rolling them in my garden. So I did. There's like some soil you can buy that has nutrients in it, like a starting soil that I put in my garden, just because the same plot of land needs to be enriched one way or another when you're starting off. So I cut the goat manure in that soil and kind of mixed it all up, and it's going good so far. The tomatoes are really liking it. I'm surprised at how much they've grown since I've done that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've never tried to goat. We had sheep last year because of the farm we were on, and
I
that I
bet
think
that worked
worked pretty
good.
well. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, interesting to try new things like that, right?
Yeah, you have
Yeah.
to, right?
So, and I saw, I think on the Instagram, you're also doing raised beds mostly.
Well, yeah, it's when I first started doing peppers, I was actually doing like physical raised beds, like long pieces of wood, like that you could actually pick up and move. And I did it that way because we could easily move them and we weren't able to plant where we were renting. So this year, I wanted to make it a little bit more level where I was growing because it's kind of on a little reverse slope and a little bit of a grade to the left. I bought cedar because cedar lasts forever. It's like one of the best woods to use for um, raised beds because a lot of heat treated wood or any pressure treated or chemical treated wood, eventually those chemicals are going to seep into the soil, and I don't want any part of that. So I got natural
Right.
cedar, and I did two 8 by 4 foot raised beds, and then I have 10 2 gallon pots of peppers and tomatoes, and so I just couldn't stop. I had more stuff that I wanted to plant, so I didn't want to do another raised bed. I put some stuff in pots, so it's a pretty big spot.
Great. Yeah. That's awesome. Oh, happy to
Yeah,
hear that. It's just cool to hear from people, you don't always need a giant field and all that to start growing stuff. Yeah.
no, not for two
That's why I'm
people,
doing the
dude.
grow bags too.
If I had a ton of people living here, man, it'd be a different story. But we're growing like I made the mistake in years prior to be like, oh, yeah, I should get 2 or 3 cucumber plants. And then in September, I have 3 5 gallon buckets of cucumbers I have no idea what to do with. So I kind of figured it out the hard way that you need one cucumber plant, one squash plant, one bell pepper plant, and just take good care of them, put them in ideal grow conditions, make sure they're watered, and you'll be all right. We're not going to die. We can always go to the grocery store if we need to and supplement that.
Right. And it's more about just doing a little bit more of it, starting to build those
Exactly.
skills. You don't need to grow everything. And that gets also very overwhelming quickly,
Oh, for
for
sure.
people.
It is.
So I love to pivot a bit into the seed saving and trading because that's unique,
Sure.
and I know you're
Sure.
really seems like you're really about all that. So
Oh, yeah.
what led you to like start saving the seeds and wanting to trade them?
Well, so I joined a Facebook group way back like a decade ago, and it was a group where these guys would grow pepper plants in a soda can. It was like a challenge. They would put soil in the little soda can, put the seed in there, and eventually the seed would find its way out, and they had a competition. And when I tell you, these look like full on bonsai trees, like, and the code on the can had to match the code on the can when you showed the full product. Like people couldn't cheat and like transplant or cut the top of the can off. And I thought there's a couple thousand people in here that are super gung ho about it. Let me look into what the hell they're doing. And I watched it and I kept track of it the whole year, the whole season. And then finally at the end of the year, I just noticed all these like crazy intricate peppers. And a couple of the guys that won, I messaged them and said, hey, where did you get the seeds for that? I'd really love to buy some from you. Like if you have a pod and you want to send a pod over, or how does it work? And he's like, here's this guy from Italy. His name is Drax. Send him an email. He'll send you his seed list. And it was like this whole underground world. And he hooked me up with somebody that had those coyote teeth that were sent from Africa. And it just became this awesome network of guys that were just passionate about growing peppers. There was no like nefarious action to it. There's no like underground like rules like that guy sucks, this guy sucks. Everybody was cool, man. Everybody was like eager to share. There's one guy that just gives his seeds out. He doesn't want to trade. His name is Kangstar. He's from Texas. He's developed his own peppers. They're called the Kangstar. He's got the Kangstar yellow, and he's got all his own phenoms and all this stuff. And just seemed like it was this endless world of knowledge, and it just intrigued me.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love how nerdy you can get about it all, and especially
Anything
like
really.
yeah, right. But food is a great thing to nerd out about, and
Oh yeah,
um, it seems like Facebook. That's the one thing it's still good for is those really
yeah,
cool communities. Like
yeah,
they really figured that part out that you can't
yeah.
really
I
get in
just
many
lost
other
my
places.
Facebook. I can't believe it, man. I
Oh,
finally somebody finally
a
got in.
hacker or
Yep.
what?
Yeah, they got in. Yeah, yep.
That's
It happened all
scary.
the time. It was happening. It was happening almost every night. I would wake up and in the morning, at like 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, I would have a text on my phone that said, "Use this code for two-factor authentication." I'm like, "What the hell's going on?" And as long as they didn't have that code, they couldn't get in. So it finally stopped. And then 2 weeks ago, I was going to wish a friend happy birthday because that's all I really used Facebook for, was to connect with family members, those odd groups if I needed help with anything, finding unique cast iron, and just like wishing friends and family happy birthday. And I looked on there and it said we've suspended your account. Somebody had gotten in and linked it to an Instagram page that wasn't mine. So they just red flagged it and they're like, yeah, this decision can't be overturned. But they can't get
That's
the Instagram. They're not getting that.
dang. Yeah. Well, did you are you verified and all that?
Yeah, oh yeah. I got that. I always joke and say I'm the last person that got it before you could buy it, and it pissed me off because I spent so much time putting in articles and sending them every little piece of media I did. When the Boston Hot Sauce Festival came out, we got an article on Boston.com, and I had just done Outside Magazine, and that was the last two things I needed where they're like, all right, cool, we'll do this. And every time I did a skillet giveaway or like a sale, somebody was impersonating my account, scamming people. This one lady got hit for like 5 grand because somebody claimed to
Wow.
be me, and it was really bad. So I just wanted to have it so that people felt confident buying something from me, like using my business, knowing that it is coming from me and my business. But then, like 2 weeks after I got it, then they're like, everyone's like, oh, you get it if you want to. I was like, man, I would have loved to have the opportunity to have that protection. Whether anybody has
Yeah.
it on their own or they're buying it, it doesn't matter. But it gives people a sense of security that they're speaking to the people they say it says they are.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's why I
Yeah,
bought it, and also the support, like in case someone
of
ever
course.
hacks it or something. Because like you put so much
Yep,
time into that, and it'd be such a bummer.
I
So
couldn't
yeah, I
imagine
know
losing
people
it. It
who.
would be
Yeah.
it'd be
Well,
tough.
hopefully it never happens.
Oh, yeah.
Well, to get back to, right. To get back to the seed saving, sounds like a really cool story, kind of how you got into it. And for people
Yeah,
listening,
yeah.
maybe find your own group. Because I was going to ask you, like, especially for trading, like, how can someone get started? Are there like communities out there? I assume Facebook, and are there any other
Yeah,
communities you can point them to?
what I'm thinking about doing, I'm thinking about getting back onto Facebook, but just to help people with these hobbies. I want to start a page. Maybe we can start a page together, Poldy. We could just do seed trading so that people don't lose excess. If you have, your seeds are good for 2, 3 years or however long people say they are. Some people are like, oh, these seeds are so good. They're good for 5 years. I'm like, well, you're not going to get 100% germination on a seed that's been sitting for 5 years. You're just not going to do
Yeah.
that. So it's better to trade within that first year. And sometimes people don't really have an outlet to do that. So it'd be cool to have a community of people to trade heirloom varieties of certain vegetables. So it might be a fun
Right.
thing to get into. But I just lost the Facebook about 2 weeks ago, so I got to think about if I want to dive back in.
Right, and I'm sure there's other websites you can go to.
Yeah.
I'm just getting
Oh yeah.
started with it, so yeah, once I learn a little more, I'd be down for something like that.
Yeah.
I
I think
just
it'd be
did my
fun.
first yeah, I really wanna dive deep into it now. Did my first seed saving a few months ago just with some squash we grew, and,
Okay.
they keep really long. The squash
Yes.
keep long, which is why I like to grow them. And,
Yep.
I just yeah, I tried it out, followed some methods. I posted on X about it because I've been trying to grow an account over on X because
Okay.
there seem to be a lot more friendly for hunting content and whatnot,
Yes, they are.
which I
Yeah.
have a good amount. um,
Yes.
yeah, and and I got like 300 replies or something on that one post about
Wow.
seed saving. Yeah, it's very.
Wow.
You should check it out, man. It's a. I really like X. There's a lot of engagement there, but
Yeah, I got to check it out. I always say I'm gonna like venture off of Instagram, but as soon as I venture off and I get like other DMs and I'm not used to checking those platforms every day, I feel like an asshole. I'm like, oh, sorry, man, I didn't mean to miss your, I didn't mean to miss
right.
your message.
That's my issue always. People that follow me know I'm horrible at. I mean, I'm really bad at replying on Instagram, but even iMessage and text. It's best to just call me if you need something from me.
Exactly. That's what I
But
say.
anyway, um, so like I'd love to hear your method for saving seeds and like storing them because the reason I brought up the X post is like there seems to be so many ways to do it.
Oh yeah. Mhm.
Everyone had a different opinion, but I'd love to hear your way of doing it.
So the main thing I learned all of these things you're asking me. I have a trail of learning them the hard way. So when I say this, I say it with a lot of sadness getting to that point. When you're like, so we'll take a bell pepper for example. You want to make sure you have none of that pith or the placenta, or I guess however whatever they call that
Flash,
white. Yeah, that fleshy stuff. You want to make sure you have none of that, none of that on there, because that will when that dries out, it's going to be looking for moisture. It's going to draw moisture in. You're going to get mold. Mold will instantly guarantee you're not going to get germination, because the mold has to eat something. It's going to be eating whatever is in the seed, on the seed, around the seed. Mold means no growth. So make sure you have none of the, I believe it's not pith. It's a different word. It's escaping me right now. But make sure all the seeds are just the seed. You don't want them attached to anything. Sometimes it looks enticing, like, oh wow, this piece has 15 seeds on it. I could do it all at one time. No, take them off. If you're going to do hot peppers, definitely use tweezers and gloves, because that part, that white part where the seeds are, that will burn you up. Um, but also, I would use gloves on any other seeds to keep your oils of your hands off of it. If the game is to preserve the seeds, you want to keep it as organic and natural as possible. So try to clear off all the excess of anything that's not the seed. And I literally put down a couple layers of paper towel. I put down another layer of paper towel on top of the seeds. So you have paper towel, seeds, paper towel, and then I'll put a couple books or something heavy on there to make sure that it's dry. And if there's even a little bit more moisture, I'll put another layer of paper towels, put the seeds back on it, and just cycle them out until you can shake the paper towel and the seeds are not stuck at all. Because any of that stuck, if any of it's stuck, that means you have some moisture left over. So I literally just do paper towels, or like a dry rag or something like that you can cycle out until the seeds are completely isolated and dried.
It seems like, yeah, from what I was reading and then hearing in my expos too, it's just the moisture is the biggest worry because that can lead to mold
Yeah.
and
Yep.
all sorts of things.
Yeah. You want to
And that
make sure, because that's a mistake I made. I literally took a bag. I grew some purple marugos, which is like a really, really, really hot pepper, and they're big too. And I took the pieces. There was like 5 or 6 strands that had, a dozen or dozen and a half peppers, and I'm like, oh, this is easy. Just boop boop boop, put it in a bag. The next year, I went and opened up my seed box. There was just mold in that bag. I was like, damn it! They were good, healthy peppers too. I was mad about that. So I learned, dry. There's no way you could over dry a seed. I don't recommend. There's a lot of people that'll tell you to do it in like the oven on real low to dry them out. If you get them too hot, you're not going to be able to grow anything. You might as well roast them. So you don't need
right,
dehydrators or anything fancy like that. It's honestly dehydrating, in my opinion. I think dehydrating is just going to make it harder for you to get germination, because the seeds will be just so beyond dry. Like, they don't need to be that deep. And if that dryness gets inside the seed, you're in trouble.
right. And in nature, they get dried by the sun and the air too.
Exactly.
So
Yes, Steve, that's exactly right. Yes. Like, just people used to just literally hang them up with clothespins and dry them out and shake the seeds out of them. If you buy like a dried chipotle pepper, you could clip the top off and pour the seeds out. It's easy.
right, and it can take a while though. It can take like 2 to 3 weeks, right, for them to get
Yes,
pretty
sir.
dry. So you got to give them time.
It I think it's usually like 6 or 7 rotations of it, taking out the towels, and you can use paper towels if you want, if you don't have a lot. But you could use shop rags, and just make sure they're clean and dry, and you have some sort of pressure on top, because the last thing you want to do is have like I don't know if you have any animals in your house, a cat or a dog or something, or you bump it and slide the whole towel off, and then you have fucking pepper seeds all over your floor. Just put something on there to give a little pressure to draw out the moisture and to make sure it's sitting there safe. Think about what you're doing, take an extra breath, and make sure you're not going to make more work for yourself.
Right. And then you said you have it kind of like sandwiched, like layers, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. And
Yep.
then
That's all
just
you need.
every like 5 days or so, switch those out. When do you know when to
You
switch
can,
it?
you just check, just like pull one of the books off, or whatever the pressure you have, and pull it up and look at it and see how loose they are on there. If they're still stuck in some spots, switch them out. Just do it until nothing. There's no moisture, and it just looks right. And then if you want a couple days after that point, you'll be even better.
Yep. Cool.
Yep.
And then once they're fully dried, how do you then go to store them?
So I use the little tiny Ziploc bags, the teeny tiny ones, and I do them in 10 seed batches. And that's because if one of those seeds does have any retained moisture and it does flower into mold or spore into mold, it's only ruining those 10 seeds. If you take 500 pepper seeds and you have a mold outbreak in that bag, you can kiss all those seeds goodbye. So isolating it into 10 pack, sections like that really helps with keeping your mind at ease that God forbid you didn't get all the moisture out, or there is a big enough temperature flux where you're storing the seeds, that you create some sort of moisture or anything like that. You only lose it in that little neighborhood.
That's a great tip. I love that.
Yep.
Yeah, I did the Ziploc method too. I definitely had more than 10 in there. But people on X at least were saying that a lot of them like to use a paper envelope just because if there's
Hmm.
still some moisture in
Yeah, yeah.
there, it could
You can
cause some
you can
humidity and
do,
mold.
what is it called? It's like almost like wax paper, like a parchment kind. They make little tiny envelopes. You can do that, fold it over, and put it in a little tiny plastic bag too, so that you keep the air, you keep moisture from getting in there. Yeah, there's a million different methods you'll get from people. When I was germinating seeds, there was people that were saying you got to soak the pepper with a tea bag, like take a Lipton's tea bag and put tea on there. It'll make it germinate. You'll get more percentage of germination. There's other people that said use, sugar water, and other people that said use salt, like all these different methods. So I just tried a little bit of everything and I kind of developed a little bit of all of it to be my own way.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And then also, when I did the squash, I've just based on some videos I was watching, I first soaked them with the fleshy stuff around there in some water, and then I
Hmm.
separated all that and and dried them. And one thing I didn't know that someone on X to me was saying that I guess the ones I think that float aren't good anymore, or maybe it's the other way
Yeah,
around.
yeah. It's I I think the way you're saying it is right, because there's oxygen inside there, and you're not supposed to have that until it flowers. I believe what you're saying is right, but when you're dealing with that's like a specific squash and like pumpkin and gourd method with the little seeds and peppers. They're like, they're maybe an eighth of an inch big. You put all of them on water, they're going to float for a little while. So that's not really a method for hot peppers, but that's more like your squashes and your big seeded things.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we'll see if it worked. I'm gonna try some out.
Yeah.
We have a
Yep.
I was look because we have that short growing season. I was looking specifically for heirloom winter squash that was bred in Montana, and I actually found
Okay.
one that was bred in this town. So that's I'm like,
Really?
that's gotta be the one. Yeah. I
That's
guess there was an
cool.
old yeah, there was an old seed company here, and they like
Really?
closed down in like the 70s or something. And then another seed company got a hold of their seeds from someone who was,
Really?
still using them, and they started growing them again. Yeah.
Was it Baker Creek that got a hold of them?
It's called Triple Seed Divide
Okay.
are the ones.
I have not
Yeah.
heard of them,
They're,
but I know Baker Creek has some crazy heirlooms of just about everything. That's
the
Have you heard of Baker Creek seeds?
I have. Yeah, I saw them
Yeah, they're
online.
great. Yeah. They're I'm
The
not
the one
it's not a sponsored or whatever, but I'm just saying they're a good brand. Great brand.
yeah, the company that was here was Fisher's Seed Company. I don't know if
Fishers.
you've heard of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other
They
one
I guess
what's the other one I was thinking of? Burpee is the other good one. They got some good stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
I bought from
Fisher's
them
good.
actually. And the I guess there's even because I'm in Bozeman, Montana.
Right.
There's even a Bozeman melon, like a watermelon,
Really?
which I was
What's
whoa,
that
yeah.
like?
I didn't grow it, but I just saw that this year. I'm like, okay, maybe next year that's something I'll have to try, like a Montana bred melon.
Dude,
It's
you
kind of
could bring back the Bozeman melon. You could have your own,
yeah.
like the Poldy melon. That would be sick.
That would be sick. Bring it to the farmer's market or something like that. Or just,
Yeah, what?
yeah, use
This
the
is my
seeds.
my melon, only mine.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Cool. Yeah. So that seed trading, seed saving seems like such an interesting topic and definitely something to get into. I was reading actually about, I know very little about this, but like there are these seed vaults that are like run like
Yes,
the US and all these some companies and world powers, they have these vaults, I think even like underwater or something crazy like that, where they have like the world's seeds in storage. And,
really.
for like if if times get real bad, or and I know the Bill Gates Foundation is involved, and a bunch of just big corporate, like big foundations in some countries that you should read into it. Anyone listening,
Really?
it's really fascinating. Yeah, so they have like
Well, I'm gonna write it
a
down
whole
real quick. Seed
seed
vaults.
bank. Yeah, seed banks and seed vaults of like the world seeds. It's kind of cool to kind of read
I'm
into.
gonna look
I
that
need
up. That's cool.
Yeah, I read so much and then I forget to take notes and then I lose it and I'm like, should
Yeah,
have taken some notes for
I
some
have
better
recently
retention.
learned that I have to write it down or jot it down in my phone, or I will forget. Like
Yeah.
hands down, I will forget.
It's crazy what that though does to just for retention, just putting it in your
Oh
own
yeah,
words, kind of writing, it's
yeah.
powerful. And I'm sadly, I'm kind of a note taker who will just write it down how I see it on the website or something like that, instead of like putting it into my own words. And I'm trying to practice that more because that's what
And
really burns burns into your
yeah, then
memory,
you're like, what the hell? What the hell does that mean? I have no idea what
Yeah,
that means. I should have wrote it for me.
exactly.
Right
Exactly.
there with you.
Cool, man. Well, that was super fascinating. Um, I basically asked you everything I was really curious about this time around. I
Cool.
think you're really doing a great service for people with the cast iron stuff. Really
Thank
showing
you.
people that these traditional cooking utensils, still are really relevant today.
Hmm.
And I think honestly more relevant than all that Teflon stuff. And we're just learning
Junk.
so much about how the health consequences of using Teflon and some of these other
Oh,
plastic coatings that they're using.
yeah,
We got rid of
it's
all
not
that.
good. Good. You got
No,
rid of all of it.
we're, we're only using cast iron.
Good.
Yep.
Good, man.
Yep.
That's so
Even like,
smart. It's good move.
yeah, even just wooden cutting boards and stuff. One of my
Good.
my main podcast sponsors, Montana Block. You should check them out. Actually,
Okay.
um,
Cool.
they have a discount code for us, Year of Plenty, and they make it's in Montana. They make handcrafted, all wooden end grain butcher blocks, specialty
Wow.
cutting boards. So my
Nice.
girlfriend got me from them a custom wooden cutting board. It's all American wood, handcrafted,
Nice.
and it's
Good.
big enough to hold a whole elk quarter. So I'm
Holy
excited to use it
shit.
this hunting
Dude,
season.
that's
Yeah,
awesome.
it's become our everyday board, and they're selling it now even on the website and stuff. So I think
There's
you would really enjoy their stuff.
there was a study that I did a little bit of research. I messaged some brands and I talked to some people and I gathered enough to figure out that the average consumer, the average nonstick consumer, has to replace their cookware set every 7 to 8 years. You have like
Wow.
Teflon stuff isn't lasting that long. Any nonstick crap is not lasting that long. So imagine, say over the course of your life, say the average person lives to what, 75, 80 years old, whatever. Think of how many times you'd have to rebuy a full set of stuff. You're talking, maybe eight times in your life. You're talking thousands of dollars. You could buy one skillet and have it last the rest of your life. Just like that
Yeah.
tomato we were talking about earlier, right?
Yep. Plus, I feel like 7 to 9 years. How long until they scratch it up? Probably a few months, and then
Probably a few months.
with
Yep.
they're cooking with these uh broken pans that every time they use
Just
them leach an
breaking down.
insane amount of nanoparticles of plastic and stuff into their
Ugh.
food. We covered it a few episodes ago, like the amount of nanoplastics they found in plastic water bottles, And then if you dive deeper into all the Teflon pans and stuff, it's crazy. Every scratch
Wow.
is like a floodgate for those
Ugh,
PFASs and stuff to get into your body, and they stick around. They don't really leave your body, just build up
no,
like
they
heavy
don't.
metals. Yeah.
Right.
Sweet. Well,
Yeah.
man, love all the stuff you're doing. Awesome to
Thank
hear
you.
that you're also a fellow gardener and really,
Oh
uh,
yeah.
you know, thanks for teaching us a bit about the hot sauces. I have made like one or two fermented ones in the past. It's been a while, so maybe this year I need to
Okay.
dive back into that, just because I do like him. And I wasn't
My
aware of
fault.
all the different. It's all good. I
I
wasn't aware of all the different.
say hi. She's trying to
What's your dog's name?
Sydney. Hey, look at her. She's nudging me the whole time.
Hey, she's like, is my dinner ready?
Yeah, right. She's nudging
Nice.
me the whole time, and I give her some camera time, and she shies away.
That's a
Get out
good
of here.
dog.
Go play. Good girl. Yeah, dude, I
But yeah,
appreciate you having me on here. I always see your posts, and I'm like, man, I wish this guy lived closer because there's a lot of people I connect with, but very few of them are people like I'd actually want to like be buds with. And I'm like, man, I'd love to do this. I'd love to be at Poldy's house right now cooking that shit. You always are posting something super cool. Seems like you and your girl are into it, and you're always foraging and you're just on a good path for the world. We need people that think the way that you think. We need people to spread the word and have a platform to be able to bring good things to people's ears. And I think what you're doing is a great mission, and I hope you never stop.
I appreciate it. Yeah, no, that means a lot. Maybe we can have you out here in Montana sometime. That would be pretty sweet. We could do
I got to
something
see
out here.
how it goes in the Smokies next week. How the travel blogging goes and how the travel videos go. There's all these cool small businesses. I'm a big small business guy, but I'd love to. We've tossed around messaging some counties out in Montana to see if they want to do it. So I think that might be my next move.
Yeah, you should. It's beautiful out here. And yeah,
I'd love
I
to.
mean, I really appreciate what you said. I recently have been thinking about my mission a bit more too. It used to
Mhm.
be, more like exploring real foods, but now it's really become build more resilient people through food. That's
Yes,
kind of what
for
I want
sure.
all my content to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and I think a lot you're aligned with that stuff too.
Yeah, man.
Making us
Born
more
and raised on a farm.
sustainable lives. Yep.
Yep. If
Love
it
it.
ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
That's right. That's right. Well, Kyle, before we go, is there anything you feel like I didn't ask that you want to get out to the listeners, and also obviously share
No.
like where they can find you and how they can get in contact with you and all that.
Oh, yeah, there's one thing. Yeah, you can do cast iron underscore Kyle on Instagram. But along with the hot peppers and making my own hot sauces, I've kind of found a world in the hot sauce festival world. I was part of Boston. I was part of Philly. This year, Philadelphia Hot Sauce Festival is August 17th and 18th at Neshaminy Creek Brewing. The tickets will be on sale soon in my bio on Instagram. Um, if you want to come to the festival, if you're listening, let me know. I'll take care of you. Hope to see everybody there. And yeah, Philly Hot Sauce Festivals, August 17th, 18th, Neshaminy Creek Brewing. Other than that, the Instagram is the way to get to me.
Awesome. Yeah, and I highly recommend you guys listening. Check out his page and see all the cool cast iron he's got there.
Thank
There's a
you.
bunch of vintage stuff. You could be cooking
Thank
with
you.
something that's 150 years old, and that's really
Yeah.
special.
Yeah, man. Yep. Thank you so much for having me, dude.
Always. Let's do it again.
Sounds good.